All right, pleased to be joined by Zach Goodall. Covers the Florida Gators for SI All. What's it called? SI All Gators.
Allgators.com.
Sports Illustrated,
yes, sir.
of course. So,
yes, sir.
I mean, you go to that website, you are all over it. I mean, every dang article on there is written by Zach Goodall. So, today, the Florida Gators, Billy Napier, have descended on the College Football Hall of Fame for SEC Media Day. So, I had to reach out to you, get you back on the show. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'll give a little shout out to Demetrius Harvey, my number 2 here, because he's here with me today as well. He's a carbon copy of me and does just as much, if not more, work than I do. So I had to do it. Had to give him the love.
So, hey, before we get into the deep dive of the Gators, we were just chopping it up here. Your first media days. What's the experience been like for you?
It's been a lot of fun, that's for sure. I mean, I love the access we get here, obviously, getting to see you guys and getting to see everyone. Everyone's kind of coming into this melting pot where we can just, talk and catch up. But it's been great. A lot of great access, like I said. It's just big here. A lot of getting used to this hotel, from what I've heard in Hoover, comparatively at least.
Yeah. So I was saying right before I hit the record button, I feel like I blew your mind a little bit. I got the Florida Gators, number 2 in the SEC East. Am I crazy for having that bold of a take?
Why?
Well, I think Anthony Richardson is going to blow up.
Sure.
Everybody's got Kentucky or Tennessee as that second team. Florida hosts Kentucky. I think Billy Napier, there's many reasons Dan Mullen was let go, but one of them chiefly, they keep losing to Kentucky. So I think that is going to be turning around. And I think Florida, they're going to be motivated all offseason to hear about this Kentucky crap. Coming into Kentucky thinks they're going to go to Gainesville and whoop the Gators' ass.
Like it's not even a question.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's got to end. So I think Florida wins that game. And I know last time I had you on, you were high on Tennessee. We're from Tennessee, so we're always high on Tennessee. But we've been high on Tennessee for 2 decades, and they can't beat the Gators. So I think they lose to the Gators. That's how I got to the Florida number 2.
Certainly. I mean, I think that it's a talented roster, and like Napier has said here, he said throughout the entire offseason, they're confident with the starting group they've got, and those are, obviously the early games. I think that they're going to be a lot closer to full health than at any point. But it all starts with Utah. I mean, talk about a test.
Yeah.
Very first game to have the best team last year in the Pac-12 coming into the swamp and playing in the lights. Yeah. It's certainly going to be difficult for Utah because even at 7:30, that place is hot. But it all depends on that. I'm telling people I'm kind of going 6-6, 7-5 because I understand the depth concerns, right? One player goes down, especially if it's Anthony Richardson.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not looking good. But
and he has an injury history, too.
Exactly, and I think he's got all the talent in the world like you do. He should be able to blow up. This is a friendly offense to him from what we've seen. But he gets hurt, and suddenly, they don't really have any other options. And you can say that really at any position on the team at this point, there's just not much depth there. I've been saying 6-6 to 7-5 at this point to be conservative, but I'm looking at it from, when they lose these games, these big games, are they one-score games? Are they close, tightly contested the way through? Because I think that's the most telling sign in year one is you're not expected to come in and win all these games. But if you can keep them close and fight to the very end with the top opponents on your schedule, those should turn into wins year two with more development, with more player acquisition, the depth they're building through recruiting, which I've personally seen a lot of progress. I know Florida fans are hit or miss on it, but I think it's coming along. And by year 2, I would expect it to be a big jump.
Yeah, and the stat I've been referencing all offseason, Billy Napier, 16-3 overall record in one-score games. So he knows how to win the close games. Now, we just had someone else on that he said, well, that means he's bound to lose the next few he's got. So I can't win if I use that stat. But I think the recipe for Florida. They're going to be ground and pound, defense, and rely on Anthony Richardson to make 5 to 10 big plays in a football game to win it. I think that's a recipe for success, even though they do got Kentucky, Tennessee, and I think a lot of people look at that LSU game, they see that as a loss. I don't. I think that's a win for the Florida Gators, and everybody looks at A&M. I know he loves A&M. Everybody loves A&M, but I don't know. I'm not chalking that up as an automatic loss for the Gators either.
A&M is tough.
I lost him.
A&M is tough.
He's supposed to be the Florida homer. What's going on here?
Hey, we saw what happened. Granted, different team, but last time they went out there, and again, talk about a major test first season, and it's throughout this schedule from the very start to the very finish. It's not like they're coming in and taking on Eastern Washington week 1 or FAU like they did last year, and that's kind of even when we started to see the problems. But it's going to be a huge test. I think A&M is probably not something I'm going to project to win on at this point just because of the depth they have. LSU, though, at home, saw how tightly contested it was last year when Anthony came in and made a name for himself. That was when people started to realize we've got something here. Mm-hmm. I don't see why he couldn't do it again, especially the attrition that LSU's had this offseason too, at corner in the secondary. Yeah. He should have a lot of room for success in that game.
And I think it's personal for Billy Napier because, he made it kind of public. He was interested in LSU when he was at Louisiana. I don't think for whatever reason they didn't even look at him. And now he's going to have to face them every year. You know what?
Yeah, and I mean, it's certainly going to be an interesting matchup with the coach that they did hire instead. I want to see how he transitions to the SEC. Is it going to be seamless? Is it going to be rocky? And it's one of those ones where it's so hard to make these projections at this point until we see a game or two from both of them. But you compare the squads, head to head, it seems pretty evenly contested. And you've got that game in Gainesville now after it was, 49-42 last year, down to the wire, a bunch of touchdowns second half. Could be the other way this year for all we know.
We've seen a couple coaches use some cracks against Brian Kelly in his dancing. Has old Billy Napier, has he made any dancing comments yet?
He's not, and I don't know if he's a dancer. He's more laid back. I think he'd want to sit back and people watch. I'm the same way, though, so I can't blame him.
So I know Napier's only – go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to ask quick, because we cover all SEC teams, and there's a lot of people listening right now that doesn't know Napier, doesn't know what this offense is going to look like. If you're just an outsider looking in, what are you going to expect to see from the Florida Gators? What style of offense is he going to be bringing out there?
It's going to be different. It's not going to be the same one Dan used, Dan Mullen. He was 95%, 11 personnel, 3+ receivers spread out wide. We saw 4 wide quite a bit, and it's not going to be the same thing. We're going to see maybe 30 to 40% 12 personnel. They're going to find a way to use 2 tight ends, and they've got questions there. They had health injury issues at tight end throughout the spring, but they've got a lot of people in that room with different talents, young and old. A guy that moved back from defensive end who used to play tight end and was their leading receiver in the spring game. So a lot of very different talents, and we're going to see them run the ball as a result. With those guys on the field, they'll want to run the ball, I think, 55-ish% of the time, just based on what Napier's done in the past. We'll see 3 different running backs used like we did with Dan Mullen. I think the hot hand is going to be a thing at this time. Dameon Pierce, we've talked about that. In the frustration when he just get pulled. I think if Montrell Johnson goes in and he's just getting 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, he's not getting pulled off the field. It's going to be a bit more orchestrated. And with that, I think it's going to really open up the pass game. They're going to do a lot of RPOs, a lot of quick-hitting stuff, but using the run game to draw guys down and take their deep shots when they can. I remember watching – and forgive me, I'm already forgetting the bowl because I don't keep up with Louisiana football enough, but their bowl game this past year, 2 runs with Montrell right to start, and then the next play is a play-action 50-yard deep shot down the ball, and Napier wants to do that right out of the gate. So I get it. Run heavy, 12 personnel, sounds conservative. Don't think it's going to be that, but that's going to be the setup to take the top off of defenses as the year goes on.
Yeah. What's the most impressive thing? I know it's early in the Billy Napier area, but most impressive thing you've learned about Billy Napier since he's been hired in Gainesville?
I've learned a couple of impressive things, but I think it's more of an observation. How do you keep a staff of 100-some coaches organized and intact? And how do you keep the message to the team in unison when you've got 100 different voices coming in and saying this stuff? And so far, so good. I understand that there's always going to be little things as there's a transition, maybe some big things, but we've certainly not heard any complaints, any frustrations from the players. They're getting a pretty direct message from everyone. It stays the same. And from all I can tell, the players I talked to, the coaches who are observing, players seem bought in and unified, which is something I think we could all kind of tell at the end of the Dan Mullen era just wasn't there.
Yeah. Now, do you think they've weathered that storm where, Florida fans are crazy. All SEC fans are crazy. I'm not trying to pinpoint Gator fans, but at Florida, I say they're crazy because the expectation is championship, and not only championship, but they want it to be exciting brand of football. Yeah. So, it's sky high. They've had some of the best coaches of all time down there in Gainesville. So you're walking into a little bit of a firestorm. He's releasing, letters to calm people down. He said he had that out. I don't know if you buy that or not, but have they weathered that, do you think?
I think so. I believe that letter was pre-planned. It was a speaking tour thing that they wanted to send to the fans, and then there was a bunch of events going on.
So people just kind of read into it, yeah.
It just so happens to be right when they have a bunch of recruiting misses, and Gators Twitter takes that how Gators Twitter takes that. But I think they have, and I think that, there's still some storm ahead, with this roster attrition. I was pointing to this the other day when it comes to recruiting, because I think we can all agree the fans' biggest complaint with Mullen, among many things, was recruiting and just kind of the lackadaisical effort. And someone pulled this up to me the other day because, they didn't get a Jaden Rashada. They're not getting these 5 stars yet.
Right.
July 18th, 2018, Dan Mullen had 4 4-star commits in his class, 7 in total. Napier had 10 on the same day. And we talk about, this second team that he once developed, and they need to get more depth across the roster. Even without these 5 stars, that's how you do it. 10 4-stars in July, that's SEC recruiting right there, and you got to put the cherry on top. So it's a process. Fans obviously have high expectations, like you said, because of the history here, the tradition. But Napier's told everyone all along, we got to temper expectations. Yeah. There's work to be done here, and I get it. Fans don't want to hear that, but that's why I'm going to really start judging things on year 2. Yeah, right. See those close games this year, see the recruiting wins, and then when it comes to year 2, it's, we're not giving excuses anymore.
Well, we know it's going to be a rebuild. We expect them to, be kicking in all gears when they play Tennessee, because that's usually what happens. But I want to go back to the recruiting, because I think that's always been the asterisk, in Florida here the last few years. What have you seen from Billy just in the state of Florida, just kind of protecting the borders there? You see any local high school development? I mean, what are you seeing down there?
IMG Academy is the very first one.
Yeah.
The fact that they were able to get Kamari Wilson into the class 2 weeks on the job after Florida had never gotten a player out of IMG, straight out. Kamari Wilcoxon's the excuse, but he left school before he whatever. Kamari was the first one, and then suddenly there's another IMG commit in this class. Probably going to be several guys in this class or in the next 2 that come out of that school. That speaks to it right there.
Starting a pipeline.
Exactly, and we've seen it. 3 commits from Jacksonville. How many guys did the Mullen staff miss out of Jacksonville? That's your backyard.
Right.
Ocala, I understand there was just a flip there that probably doesn't look that ideal for Florida, but that's the backyard. But so is Jacksonville, and they put an emphasis on what's a really strong couple of classes in the 904 as well right now. But we see that. We see it in South Florida. I know they got Corey Raymond recruiting South Florida. And you talk about a place that you need to get talent from, get your best recruiter on the staff down there and doing it. So I think there is structure to it, and there's a family environment with these hundreds of people that have come in and created a new culture that recruits will buy into. Now we know that's not it in recruiting all nowadays. I don't know the insight too much as to what's going on behind the scenes with Florida and obviously all these schools and NIL and all the different craziness that we've got. But on the surface, it seems like there has been a shift towards that energy you need to be putting in recruiting. I think they're going 100, maybe 110% on it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm glad you brought up South Florida, because I did want to ask you about old Mario Cristobal in Miami. And we know they got the super booster down there doing his part, but does that – I don't want to say limit the ceiling for Florida, but, all of a sudden it's like I'm seeing Florida and Miami fans go after it. I know they hate each other, but it's always been Florida and Georgia. Now it seems like it's Florida and Miami even going even harder. Does the fact that Mario Cristobal's down there, which I'm not sold on him being an elite coach, but he is an elite recruiter, no doubt. We had someone who covers Georgia saying that's going to hurt Georgia. That's going to hurt Alabama, because they've been cherry-picking guys out of South Florida. Maybe even hurts Clemson. Do you think that hurts Florida at all, or do they not really see that as kind of a pipeline?
I think it's a give and take, because, it's going to. They know that they need to get guys out of South Florida, and I think that they've got a good chance with several in this class that can change the class. But again, if Bama's getting hurt and Georgia's getting hurt by the school that's recruiting South Florida the most, you better believe Florida's going to as well. They've missed several guys. Obviously Jaden Rashada was like the story of June, really, in the recruiting landscape. And that was Florida's guy. That is who they wanted. They identified him very early on, and they knew that that's the guy they wanted at quarterback. Obviously, they're very happy with Marcus Stokes, but that just points to this renewed rivalry with Miami. And then Francis Mauigoa, the IMG Academy offensive lineman, a couple of other guys, same type of deal. Reed Mikeska, the tight end out of Texas. Miami, I'm with you. I don't know what the product's going to be on the field, and I know Mario's an elite recruiter, but I want to see if this is lightning in a bottle, with John Ruiz, if it is NIL. Again, right. I'm not sure, but if it is, is it he's getting questions from the NCAA, so we got to see, is it something that can be sustained to this point? Are they all going to sign in December, or could we see if Miami goes 7-5, what happens? So probably something that I would need to answer after the first signing day. But right now, I certainly think it does hurt.
Last thing for you, Zach, I need one bold take. If Florida's going to pull an upset this fall, is there one team that stands out? Maybe it's an ideal home game or anything like that. Maybe you're not outright picking the upset, but you're thinking Florida's got a really good shot to knock this team off, and you better not say at Tennessee. I'm just kidding.
Fighting words.
I think my cop-out answer is Utah. I mean,
Yeah.
that right out of the gate, again, with that type of challenge that Florida has not scheduled for a week 1 game. I mean, Miami, week 0 a couple years ago is probably the closest thing to it, and Florida had 10 sacks in that game and just kind of wiped the floor. That's going to tell you everything. How much fight is there in this team to go up against not only, again, an extremely strong, potential playoff fighting team last year, but a team that returns a ton of talent on both sides of the football. Depth will be tested. The biggest issue that Napier said all season is going to be tested right out of the gate against a strong team. And they win that game. They upset it. Who am I to say that they're going to lose these games? I'm expecting them to lose right now because that's a program-changing win right there for Napier. If they lose by 1 score, I still gain confidence that as they get their things going, they can beat Kentucky. They can beat Tennessee. But I just got to see then.
Yeah. Before you go, can you tell our audience where to follow you?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at Zach_Goodall, spelled with an H the correct way. And in all my work over at All Gators, we got a great team planning to crank out a ton of content over the next couple of days from being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Zach.
Absolutely.
Man with the golden hair.
Thank you.